the very power of God. It's everything. It's what you need. It's what you need to drink from. If you forget for one moment that this good news has happened about a change in relationship status between you and God, free of grace, free with mercy, if you forget that for even one moment, you'll slip into either being the older brother who's self-righteous, or you'll slip into being a secular person who says it's too easy. There's got to be more ways than just that one. Look at two cases of this. See, the elder brother in that story of Luke, he couldn't accept the gospel because he had too high of an image about himself. He said, surely I've worked so hard. He would tell you, I don't need this thing called the gospel. I've worked so hard for this. I've earned it. And he becomes, of course, self-righteous and judgmental. And on the other hand, you can have people who say, you know what? There's no possible way that I could ever earn the love of God. I'm too low. I'm too lost. I'm too far away from him. Do you remember in Hamlet, either you watch the Mel Gibson version or the Kenneth Branagh version, they both have his famous to be or not to be soliloquy. Do you remember that? To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether it's his nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. And what is Hamlet doing here? Hamlet's saying life really is horrible. I'm going to sum it up for you. Shakespeare, I put it in your bulletin. He says it a lot better. But let me just give you the summary. He's just saying life's horrible. Life's meaningless. What's the point? Let me give up now. There's no hope for me. And he actually ponders killing himself, but then he doesn't because he says, even if I kill myself, even death and not knowing what's beyond death is more fearful to me than actually living. So he says, well, then I'll just keep on living. See, Hamlet's confused and he's tormented because he feels that there's no hope. It's meaningless. And the elder brother, he's not confused or tormented, but he's self-righteous and judgmental because he feels like he's earned it. And the gospel breaks into that and says neither of them are true. The elder righteous son in that story thinks that he's earned it, and so he becomes disparaging towards others. Hamlet, though, feels he's so low and worthless that he has despair within his own heart. And Paul says, if you have the gospel, if you know that this good news has already happened, that your relationship with God is forever changed and not because of one thing you've done to earn it, you will be changed. He'll say that you'll become so humble because you realize how far away from God that you will never be able to judge other people. But at the same time, you'll become so confident in the love that God had for you, that he sent his son to die for you, that you'll be empowered with confidence and you'll be starting to taste of some of that glory that he has for you. The gospel reminds us that in every aspect of our life, every day, our work, our relationships, our marriages, that the gospel message has to be pressed through. It's not the starting point. It's everything of our Christian faith. And why? Because as Mr. Chung read in 2 Corinthians, that Jesus was made to be sin for us. He lost on the cross. He lost his righteousness. So that in Romans 1, God could look at us and say, here's my righteousness for you. You didn't earn it. You can't deserve it. But it's given to you. This is what it means to embrace the gospel. This is what it means to let it sink hold into your heart, to let it change you. Now, how does it change you? If you believe this, you can accept or reject it. But if you call yourself a Christian, and if every day you wake up, just try this, every day you wake up and say, listen, I know that there's good news, that God has come to change my relationship with him. Though I didn't deserve it, and though I don't earn it, he did it anyway, because that's how much the Lord of the universe loves me. I know that's a long sentence, but if you can say that every morning to yourself, I guarantee you, things will start to change. And why? You'll become less petty and jealous. Why? You don't need the approval of other people. You don't need the admiration of others. You already have the approval of the one in heaven whose only approval matters. You also, unlike the elder son in that story, become less judgmental and opinionated. You won't have to tell everybody what to do all the time. Why? Because you know that you're just lost and broken yourself, and you have no standing on which to do that. Let me put it this way. My wife and I, Surprise, surprise. We get into arguments like a married couple does. We get into fights. Okay? Now, I notice something that we do in our fights that's completely unhealthy, yet so symptomatic of the human condition. We get in a fight, and we may at the end of the fight say something like this: well, I agree to disagree, or, something like that. Okay, that's how you feel, this is how I feel, we're just not going to agree today. Okay, fine. But you know what one of us always does, and this is more often me, when we leave the room, you know what I do most often? I slam the door. I slam the door. Now, it's partly because I'm still angry, but you know what that really is? It's me getting in the last word, right? I say, I'm right. And the door slamming, either way, if she slams the door, if I slam the door, and more often than not, it's me to say, well, this is the way I'm right, and this is the way you're wrong. And the gospel reveals to us that in our lives, that's how we fundamentally live in relationship with others and with the world around us. We want to slam the door on it to show everybody that we are right, that we're in the right. Paul says, if you get the gospel, if Romans 1 becomes living to you, if you have a breakthrough like Luther did, you'll no longer need to slam that door. Why? Because you don't need to get the last word in. Because the last word has already been given, and that last word from God is looking at you and saying, with you I am well pleased, as I was with my son, who died for you. Isn't it great when your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend looks at you and says, if they've ever said to you, with you I'm well pleased? Meaning, I'm pleased with you. How great is that when your father or your mother says that to you, or when your husband or your wife, or when your boyfriend, or they say, I'm pleased with you. Not because of what you've done, I'm just pleased with you. How much more so is it beautiful when the Lord of the universe looks at us and says, I'm pleased with you. This is the good news. This is the change. Does it melt you? Does it make you different? Please pray with me. Lord, we in this ministry and in this community are going to seek to find what it means to be focused on your gospel. Lord, teach us how your gospel is going to change us and mold us and shape us. Remind us of this good news and teach us what this good news ought to do to us. Help us to have confidence, Lord. Help us to have humility. Help us to realize what you did for us on the cross. And because of that,